Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Yanks of the Cop. Tonight we're going to be doing the Leeds versus Liverpool preview. So tonight, unfortunately, I'm not joined by Stephen and Andrew, but I'm joined by two amazing people. So obviously it's the debut of Sophie as one of the team members in terms of hosting capacity. So it's also to have Sophie part of the team. And we also got Paul from Leeds That. So go check out Paul's account and give him a follow. So he's obviously going to be giving us the Leeds perspective tonight. So we're going to get a good download of Leeds. And as everyone, make sure you put in the chat any questions you have for Leeds. If you've got any, for Paul, if you've got any for tonight. And also make sure you like, subscribe, and retweet this, because the more likes you get, the more people are going to be able to see this content tonight. So it's going to really help us grow the channel and get more good people attending, like Paul and other big accounts as well. So we're just going to start off. How's everyone feeling going into this game? We'll start with you, Paul. We'll start with Paul first. How are you feeling going into this game, Paul?
Well, the pressure is off for us because we've secured a Premier League place for next season, which was the only aim going into this season. So it's all really about, I guess, momentum moving forward for next season. But knowing that any of these games will be viewed by the fan base really as a free hit, like last weekend against Manchester City. So just see if we could spoil a few parties between now and the end of the season, see how that works out.
Cool. Yeah, it's good to see Leeds have done well, you know. Like, I've always been a fan of Leeds ever since you were back in the Premiership last time. We had some great matches, so it's always been good to see Leeds back in. How are you feeling, Sophie, going into this game?
Do you know what? I'm not that. I think the closer it gets to the game, the less nervous I get for the actual game now. You know, before the Madrid game, I was really nervous with going up against Leeds, and I was just thinking, oh my God, you know, that I had that 4-3 in my head again. And I was just having like flashbacks of the game and how you just came up from the Championship and people were kind of like, oh, they're the underdogs, and you just came out first match of the season, like all guns blazing, and absolutely gave us a good run for our money. And I think the closer we're getting to that game now, obviously with the news, you know, where Leeds now you've got without two centre-backs, possibly without Rafinha, you're facing a little bit of a crisis type situation in terms of your starting players aren't really there the same way we are. So I don't know. I'm just feeling like it's going to be a good balanced game. I think it's going to be a good game tomorrow, but I don't really feel that nervous for it. I feel like we are the better team at the end of the day. And it's just about keeping Leeds controlled and actually being able to finish for a change.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like, I think this is going to be quite an entertaining game, like it was at the beginning of the season. And I feel less pressured going into this game now that Everton and West Ham dropped points than I would have done if they had gotten points. So I think for the neutrals, it's going to be an entertaining game, this, you know, so I'm looking forward to this. So just going with you, Paul. Leeds surprised a lot of teams this season with their style of play, the high press, the very entertaining in terms of attacking football. How's your season overall been going for you since you come back to the Premiership?
Yeah, brilliant. I mean, for a start, Sophie mentioned there about the 4-3. It's technically 3-3 because they changed the rule afterwards, and that wouldn't have been a penalty in the against.
But it was.
So you know, that was a baptism of fire for, I think, for both teams of how this season was going to turn out. But yeah, every Leeds fan would tell you that they're absolutely delighted with how the season's gone, because it was just about staying up, but we've stayed up comfortably. And I think since Christmas, the performances have been really consistent. I mean, we might have one tomorrow, but we've cut out those games where we were getting turned over, and it was never a lack of discipline or anything like that. It was just purely the way systems are set up, and in the Championship, teams don't really punish that and take every chance. And we had games against Crystal Palace and the Manchester United game where every shot was a goal, but you could let them go because we've actually we've got as many points now. We're 2 points off the total that we had the season before we were relegated. So we've done fantastically this season. It's unusual having so many people saying that they like watching Leeds, because normally everyone hates us.
No, go ahead, Sue.
Just saying, like you just said, like normally everyone hates us. Like, welcome to the Premier League. You play like Liverpool. You're a very Liverpool type football club. Everyone hates us too. So just welcome to the Prem.
So read some of the comments here. Anthony says good evening. Eric says Leeds are scary. Yeah, they are a very good team. Chris Watts says everyone. This is Leeds versus Liverpool preview. Let's not talk about nonsense that's happening. I think he's referring to the European Super League stuff. I want to know if Bamford was this good in the Championship. Was he that good in the Championship?
Well, Patrick Bamford is. It's so funny when you speak to fans of other clubs. Patrick Bamford in the Championship took a lot of chances to score quite regularly, and he was somebody who the fans would get on the back of quite easily. So I think he is potentially somebody who has benefited the most from there not being fans in the ground, because he doesn't have that. He's not questioning himself. He's a very confident player. He's a great player, great character. But yeah, I think overall his shot conversion rate, I think it's certainly had at the start of the season, but he's just showing what he's about. He's been part of this team, part of this system for 3 years. It's all about consistency for across the board.
I think the thing with Patrick Bamford is obviously, his shooting accuracy stats for this season in the Premier League is 42%. Mohamed Salah's is currently sitting on 45%. Patrick Bamford at the minute is arguably having one of the best seasons he's ever had as a player, and Salah is having one of the worst seasons he's ever had. So the fact that their statistics are so close, it does show the quality that Bamford has. But Paul, you've just said then that Patrick Bamford has really benefited from not having fans in the stadium. But the whole thing about our sport is it's a spectator sport. So what happens, in a couple of months' time when all the fans are allowed back in stadiums, you can't sit there and say, oh, he's done really well because he's had no fans there, because fans are going to come back, and that negativity and those fans being on his back is going to return. And if he wants to continue to play at top level football in the Premier League, and if Leeds want to go further than 10th place in the Premier League table, then he needs to learn how to deal with that effectively and not let it impact his shooting ability.
Absolutely, but he's not the only footballer in the Premier League to have confidence issues, and he's not. There's several within the Liverpool squad who this season have not risen to the same heights that they did previously. So there's there's a variety of issues going on there. But I would back him to have found that run of form, found that run of confidence that he will need to go on and be successful. It remains to be seen whether he's met his ceiling, and whether or not people even this season will say we need to sign a more dominant number 9, even when he's been right on the fringe of and probably should have had an England call-up.
But the difference is, sorry to be antagonistic slightly, but you've just said they've got Liverpool players in the squad this year who've not reached their ability, they've not performed, which we know a lot of our players have dropped in form, but that's because we don't have the fans. My question was, do you think Bamford is going to be able to achieve the same levels this season with the fans returning, considering that he gets so impacted by their attitude towards him?
Again, I'd say that I would hope so, but it remains to be seen. So I'm not going to definitively say that he will, but I would like to see that it's not just a one-off this season. That's what he's got to prove now. That's what we've got to prove as a squad, that it's a consistency approach. I think the Ellen Road fan, there's so many similarities that you can say that about the Liverpool fan. Everybody could be the 12th man, but actually, when the crowds can turn, or when it's not going well, we can equally be the ones who are they look up and they see that there's a few bits of moaning in the crowd, and we're very, very fussy and very particular as fan groups. So whereas there are some who I think are pretty, I don't think you'd notice at Norwich whether there were fans there or not, and various other clubs. Whereas Liverpool and Leeds, when the going's good, you've got an amazing fan base behind you, and when it's not so good and they get on your back, it can be really difficult to go wearing that shirt, and players can go hiding.
Just going to go back to this. Go ahead, Safe.
No, go on, Sam.
I was going to go back to the chat here, and Anthony says here that Leeds have many injuries, and heard that Leeds are missing 2 centre backs. Is it also true that Rafinha might be out?
So it's again funny one, because Cooper didn't play in the first game because he was injured for the first game of the season. So we played Strike and Koch, who had only trained together twice before that. So it should be. So Cooper's out through suspension, and not sure about a second centre back. I think Koch has been out long term, but has been on the bench recently. Strike came in to play with Llorente, so we still should have 2 or 3 to choose from. Rafinha's a doubt because he got absolutely wiped out a couple of times in the Manchester City game last week. So and he was pictured wearing a boot or some form of cast after the game. So we will see. But last week, Jack Harrison didn't play because he was suspended against Manchester for the terms of his loan agreement against his parent club. So Helder Costa played really well, and Jack Harrison would just slot back in if Rafinha. And again, we haven't signed Rafinha by the first game, so could be a very similar kind of lineup.
But we've seen, just to bring it back to Liverpool quickly, just to go on what you've said then, Paul, we've talked about how Liverpool have really struggled with our starting lineups this season, with not being able to have our first choice players. Obviously you've just talked about how Cooper, possibly Rafinha as well, are out. Although you're saying you've still got 2 or 3 options, you've got to admit that not having your first choice players does massively impact, especially when on the last run of games you've had Cooper in your centre back position. And as Liverpool fans, we are very well aware of how one change in your centre back positions can massively impact the game. So do you feel confident that Bielsa's got enough depth in that squad to make those changes against a Liverpool team who undoubtedly, despite our Madrid game, have had recently relatively okay results in the Premier League? We won against Wolves, we won 3-0 against Arsenal, we beat Villa 2-1. So we've been winning games as well. So does that frighten you, or not frighten, but concern you, that you haven't got your starting lineup?
Not really. We haven't throughout the season. We've struggled to put a centre back pair together. So Llorente came in as a Spanish international and didn't get to play till just before Christmas, and only recently has had this run of form. So if he were out, then yes, I would be concerned on that basis. But he's on a really consistent run. Pascal Strike's coming in and out of the team to be the one who's stepped in alongside the more senior centre back throughout the season. Cooper obviously has been solid in these last few games up until getting sent off, so he didn't play a part in the second half against Manchester City. But we do play with 2 or 3 wingers. Undoubtedly, you would want Rafinha. Rafinha's probably, one of the first few names on the team sheet. He's the one that has been linked with Liverpool, Manchester, like big clubs, because of the impact that he's had. So you want your first choice players available. But we're used to being in a position where I think the one position that we would struggle the most if they were out would be Patrick Bamford, because of the fact that we don't have an out-and-out number 9 available.
Neither do we.
So it would be the one where we had the biggest changes in the system. But so it's concerning, but it's not something that when there's a question about summer signings. At the end of the game 2 weeks ago was the first time for the last 2 minutes that we've managed to field our 4 summer signings at the same time due to injury. So and one of them's out again. Rodrigo's been out since. So it's been one of them seasons.
Definitely.
Just going here, I think Chris Welch thinks it's going to be an end-to-end game where Leeds will get loads of chances. It's all about taking them, and then players actually been training and shooting practice and not messing about with this hugging nonsense. I think he's obviously referring to Liverpool a bit there. James Paul says, "Go on, Paul." Was good to see you.
One of the other guys on the podcast, so it's not, haven't got that many fans, just a colleague.
Henry saying Miller to score the winner. That'd be poetic. Yeah.
I would love
and
that.
then Carl Atten says, what do you think of Elak Kamad? I don't know who he is, from Salzburg, in the summer joining the club? Is that something that Leeds could be interested in?
Is that directed at me? I don't know.
I think
I've not seen that name linked with us.
I wonder, Carl, can you let us know that's Liverpool Leeds? Okay, going back to match. So your summer business, obviously you brought in quite a few players and you sold quite a lot of players. Obviously, some of the standouts were Rafinha and Llorente. Like, what did you feel about the overall summer business by Leeds? And did you feel that you hit all the areas that you needed, or did you feel that that you were still wanting more in terms of fixing the areas for Leeds to stay in the Premiership?
So the big thing in the summer / autumn, as it turned out, was the constant chase of Ben White, who we had on loan the previous season and been a part of the Championship winning team from Brighton. And they consistently rejected offers, I think, up to around the 30 million mark. And then we turned that into two players in Koch and Llorente, who, again, you can't say that they've had exceptional seasons because they just haven't had enough game time. But in the glimpses that they've shown to be like they're German and Spanish internationals. So that's when we talk about Liam Cooper, I think Liam is a very established player. He's come through, he's played for us for a long time, been captain. But when you bring in a Spanish international and a German international who are starting, you don't necessarily expect Liam Cooper to be first choice for the long haul with those kind of caliber of signings. So that'll be an interesting one to see how that goes when everyone is fixed. He's never had that question. Rafinha was at the time again a bit of an unknown, but a gamble and a real bargain. And he's one of them where you watch the YouTube clips and you go, oh yeah, there's a player there, and then he's come in and it's paid off because that potential is translated into some dazzling performances and a clear. We're a Championship winning squad who are a collective who understand the system. And some of these players, if you took them out of that system and they're playing together, I'm not sure they have a greater value to us than they would have to another Premier League club to go in with a different manager and a different system. But when you look at Rafinha and Rodrigo as well, but who again had to struggle for consistency in terms of the amount of time that he's played. But you could see that they were a step above and notch above the kind of signings that we'd made the year before. So they set out to go for quality over quantity, and it seems to have paid off.
So do you feel you're going to keep Rafinha this summer? Do you think he'll go?
Yeah. No. Well, he's moved in the last, I think, either 2 or 3 summer transfer windows. So he's got form for that. So, and he's clearly an ambitious guy. So I couldn't hand on heart say he'd stay. However, you would like to think, so this is a fan's perspective, that players who come in that have only played for a club behind closed doors and never have had a chance to play in front of the fans may wish to experience and see what that's like. So we shall see.
How much fee do you reckon he'll go for?
Well, I've seen him make players like Pepe look like utter dross, and they cost an absolute fortune.
So absolute crap to begin with. Let's be honest.
It depends on the resolve of the club, but I think there is a suggestion that they would like to go down essentially the kind of Leicester model where you buy a player and with the potential, you see them improve, and then you try and spin that for a much bigger. So I would be surprised if they listen to offers less than 50 million based on the potential of. I mean, we paid 17, 18. So, but his value to us, we couldn't replace him for anything for that amount. So they've done well there, haven't they? Let's be realistic. They've gone quite well. That wasn't a deliberate thing. It was just good luck. Doesn't it work like that every week?
Okay, interesting. Because I wonder if because 50 million, because we're looking for someone. I wonder if we would actually pay that. That's quite a lot of money. But it does make sense. You also the Premiership tax, so it does make sense. Just going through the comments here. Eric Bapp says great game for Keita. I don't think I'd play Keita for this season. The Mighty Red Television says need a win tomorrow. Going to be a tough game. Leeds come and have a go. Will be a test up the Reds. Anthony's got a question here for you, Paul. Like it says, with Leeds having secured, are quite safe now. Do you feel that there's going to be any for you to fight for in this game, or are you just going to be pressure off? Will you just go for it and just play attacking football?
See, City fans were saying this last week. They said that the Leeds lot will already be on the beach, which was hilarious because obviously we had to dig in, and we played a game in the second half that we've not played all season. But for 3 years in the BL, we've not been the team that's utterly dominated and had to be patient, and we scored our only few shots in the game. There are some Leeds fans who would say that we're still not mathematically out of the European places. If we beat you tomorrow, we'll be 4 points behind Liverpool. So I think the squad want to get as many points on the board as they can do this season, and I think they're a real professional bunch. And I don't think the coach will let them take their eye off. They know that if they take their eye off the ball, any misdemeanor and they're out. Basically, he's got uber high standards. It's like if you react badly to being subbed, you drop from the next few games, and it's a real tight regime.
Sorry, go on, Paul. Finish off.
No, I was just going to say. So I expect them to go out professionally, and we interviewed Calvin Phillips on our podcast, and he said if they lose a game, the aim is just to win the next game. They actually said the Liverpool game gave them the belief that they could go up against anybody and get a result this season, even though we lost. They believed that they belonged there and that they could go out and play. So we shall see.
I was just going to say then, you mentioned, it's not mathematically improbable that you'll get Europe this year. I was on the Dugout Football Channel's podcast the other day, and we were talking to Carl Levy. He's another Leeds fan. And we were talking about how, yes, Leeds technically could still get Europe, but, this is your first year back up in the Premiership. You've been in the Championship for a very long time now, and this is your first time being promoted again. And the league has changed significantly since you were last in there. The level of football has considerably stepped up. And then, again, I just don't think it's realistic for me personally. If I was a Leeds fan, I wouldn't be pinning all my hopes on, getting Europe this year. I'd be focusing on getting as high up that table as I can, because if we look at a team like Wolves, who, we know they came up from the Championship as well, 3 seasons ago. They came in all guns blazing, much like yourselves, and they came up with the mentality that they can take points off big teams as well, and they can make a stance in the Premier League. And Leeds have done very similar to that, and I feel like Leeds kind of need to follow the Wolves' way a little bit in terms of that, because we've seen how easy it is to come up to the Premier League and then get kicked back down the next season. So I feel like if Leeds put all that emphasis on getting the Europe this season, it's probably going to backfire on you a little bit. I think you should really just be focused on cementing your place in the Premier League, and then next year getting a little bit higher in the table, bringing in some very clever signings. You said before you've got players who gel really, really well together because you're a Championship winning side and wouldn't necessarily work in other teams. But I think you've got to be very careful bringing new players into that squad who obviously understands the way Bielsa works, understands your coach, and understands the way you work as a unit and your style of play. So do you think that it would be, for you personally, would you rather really challenge to get into Europe this season, or would you rather take a season or two to really cement yourselves and make those clever signings and really ensure that you have a better chance at going into Europe and staying in Europe?
No, absolutely. I think that it would be catastrophic to some extent, because we probably have to put the 23s out in Europe to actually have a big enough squad to compete. We don't have the squad size. We don't have the depth. We don't have the depth of quality. So this season was purely about staying up. But the squad won't turn around and say, we've got enough points now, that's it. It is about putting as many points on the board as possible. I don't think we will get enough points to get into Europe anyway, but I think it will show them that they are close and that within the next 2 years aiming for Europe isn't unrealistic, because if each summer, it will be summer rather than the winter transfer window, we're adding 2, 3, 4 quality players, and that squad's regenerating over time and players are having the time to fit in and gel within the squad without upsetting that dynamic, then it is a much more long-term project, and it's part of European football will be part of that, or hopes to be part of that, but it's also part of the entire infrastructure rehaul of the club for taking it from a beleaguered Championship and League One team that was big in just fan base and a rickety old club, really, going back to being a full modern professional football club at the top elite level.
Let's go for the chat again here. So Mustafa says, heard this rumor that every club that joins the European Super League will receive over 425 million. We will get onto that at the end. We'll do a small little segment on that, so we will talk about that. Dugout Football Channel says, good evening. It's going to be a tough match tomorrow. Leeds been a joy to watch this season. Yes, they have. Mustafa says he's talking more about the European Super League. Why are Arsenal and Spurs in it? So we're interested to talk about that. Eric Bapp says, can't wait for Gomez and Van Dijk next season. Carl Atwood says, I think Mane's been your best player this season. I don't think a lot of people are going to say that. Mane's got a lot of slack this season, so he's not going to be my best player this season, one of them. So I get your sentiment there, Carl, but I disagree with that. John Breathwood says, good evening up the Reds. Good to see you, John. Mustafa says here, many fans would definitely feel disconnected from the club if they break away from the domestic league, Champions League to play in some elitist Super League. So I agree with their point. Anthony Mustafa says, is Leeds coach still leaving or will sign another one-year extension? I think that's with Belsa. You got anything to share on that?
Yeah, he each year he's signed his extension at the end of the season and has refused to comment on it during the season, and it's just his style. He's been at the club longer than he's been anywhere else. There's no reason to say that he's unsettled, but the only caveat that anyone would ever say is that he's a 60-some-year-old man whose family lives in a continent and he's been separated from them for over a year through a pandemic. So there's always that bit in the back of your mind, and I know that the club has said that they have to do a bit of research on who's out there in case Bielsa chooses not to stay, but there's nothing at the moment that suggests that he would leave.
Well, I think he's a great manager, so I think Leeds. I've always thought Leeds did well to get him, so I'll be interested to see if he does stay. And everyone else, make sure if you haven't already done, smash that like button and also subscribe if you haven't done. Helps us get this channel out to more people. The next part. So going back to the game, what do you feel is going to be your go formation and line up tomorrow when you think about how you're going to line up for this game against us?
So we've got Meslier in goal, who is the French under-21 goalkeeper, and he started the season. He's been a little bit more assured recently, but with inexperienced goalkeeper, there's always something there, so you never know. Luke Ayling's been consistent at right back throughout the season. I think I'm sure Llorente's fit, so it'll be Llorente and probably Struijk would stay in because he came in last week rather than Koch. And then Alioski at left back, who is someone who's mad as a box of frogs and out of contract at the end of the season and potentially going elsewhere. Then Calvin Phillips sits just in front of the defence. Then recently we've been, and he really doesn't make too many changes. So it's Stuart Dallas and Tyler Roberts in the middle. With if Rafinha's out, it'll be Costa and Harrison. That's the only question mark, because Costa played last week because Harrison was ineligible. So he usually sticks with someone. So it'll be two of those three with Bamford up front.
Interesting. Okay.
What do you think?
Okay. So from a Liverpool point of view, Sophie, how do you feel after Liverpool being dumped out of the Champions League? Like you said, really going to this game. Like, are you feeling like this is a chance for Liverpool to, really shake up the cobwebs and bounce back from that defeat? Or are you feeling like Liverpool are going to be slow at the blocks and feeling sorry for themselves?
You know what? They're not going to feel sorry for themselves. I say this all the time. Look at our season. Look at how turbulent our season has been. We've been obsessed. I think we had 17, 18 different centre-back pairings. The boys that we've got there now, 21 and 22-year-olds, are the longest standing centre-back pairing we've had so far. Our centre-backs have had combined injury of 607 days. We've seen our fair share of crap this season. So I don't think, deep down, I don't think anyone really expected us to be able to do the Champions League this year. We know how difficult it is to do that with our top players. We went out last year and we had Virgil and we had Gomez and we went out. We got kicked out in the final 16. We know how hard it is. It's a very difficult, competition. So I don't think the boys are going to be. They'll have been disheartened, obviously, as we all were when they went out against Madrid. But we went out to Madrid. We went out to the Galacticos, 13-time champions of the competition. They are undoubtedly one of the most decorated teams in world football. I don't think you can be ashamed to go out, especially on the performance. Even though we couldn't finish, we played really well. We played really good football. So I think the boys will have been sad, will have been a bit let down, but they'll have got over it by now. Most of us fans are over it, so I imagine the boys being professional are probably over it too. I think going into this Leeds game, now we know that we're out the Champions League, and that that pressure per se is kind of off us. We've got nothing to lose now apart from getting that top four, and obviously with teams dropping points this weekend as well, it really has opened the floodgates to that top 3 and 4th position. There are a lot of teams around us right now who are dropping points left, right and centre, and we need to capitalise on that, and we need to go into this Leeds game not being frightened, not being hesitant, and not being resting on our laurels a little bit of, are we going to be like this? Do we need to brush the cobwebs off? And more so just attack every game. And I said it before, we need to not go in trying to play the world's best football, most flamboyant style of football, because where we are, we can't really afford to be very flamboyant and then mess it up. I think we need to just go in headstrong, like Milner. We need to go in like a unit of Milners. Just go in, get the job done, get your head down and grind out a win, whether it's a 1-0 win, whether it's a 2-1. We just really need to be very solid in our performance and as a unit in general. I think Klopp will probably have put that in the boys. We've played Leeds before. We know what they're capable of. We've seen you do really well this season. So I think the boys are going to feel quite up for it, to be honest. A little bit of proof that the first game of the season when we had a full strength team, that wasn't a fluke. We can still batty us around the park. And I think that's the way the boys are probably going to feel about it.
Yeah, I think I'm going the opposite side to you, Sophie, in that, because I feel like we've heard it before. Like, we're going to fight. We heard it in the Champions League game. We're going to fight hard, or we're going to we've heard it from Robertson, Ronaldo, all of them saying, "Oh, we're going to be up for this. We're going to fight hard, scrap." Or we heard all that top before. And then we see like performances you don't want. So in both Champions League games, you see the performances you don't want. I feel this is going to be very much like the Villa game, in the sense that I think we're not going to start fast. I agree with Eric here, where he says that Liverpool are slow for the mark every game, and I think that is the case, especially in the Premiership. I don't think we are going to come up the blocks quick, and I wouldn't surprise me if we do go a goal down like we did against Villa and have to come back, because I just feel like I think the Champions League game is going to still hang on, especially on Monday night. We're not always the best on Monday nights. This isn't the Saturday game; it's the Monday night as well. So, and you also have that feeling like where Liverpool have seen the results of other teams. Will they capitalize on that? I think we will. But I just feel like I think there's going to be a drag from the Real Madrid game, and we're not going to count the blocks fast.
This is where I feel like everybody's issue is at the minute. You're all very pessimistic about it. You are all sitting there feeling sorry for yourselves and wallowing in it, and nothing can be changed about it at this point. Like, what's happened has happened. You can either sit there and worry about it till you're blue in the face, but you can't go back in time and change it. You've got to deal with the fact we got knocked out of the Champions League, and that's the end of it. If we want top 4 next year, we really need to go in, or we need to go in. And Eric said before, we're slow off the block every single game. I don't really care this season if we're slow off the block every single game, as long as we get a result at the end of it. You saw us in that Madrid second leg. We came out absolutely rocketing from the first minute of the game. We dominated them and we couldn't do anything with it. Yet with Villa, we did nothing for the first 10 minutes. We went down to a stupid goal and it was like a fire was lit under the backside of the boys. And sometimes I feel like maybe this season in particular, that's what the boys need. They need a little bit of a challenge. And, I feel like a lot of Liverpool fans are quite pessimistic about it, going, like yourself, it's Monday Night Football, and the Madrid game's hanging over your head still, and this and that. It's just an excuse. That's all I feel it is personally, that you're just putting excuses out there already, so that if things don't go your way, if things don't go your way, you can fall back on it and go, well, I actually said we don't play very well on Mondays. Now, if we don't play well, we don't play well. Just own it. Well, go in.
Shut up.
Go. Where's our shush button? But I feel like you need to go into this with a really positive mindset, especially against a team like Leeds. Leeds have proven this season how good a football team they are and how well they can play. They can take the points off one of the best teams in this league with a £1 billion squad. They are something to be a little bit concerned about. They're not something to take lightly. So going in with a negative attitude isn't really going to help anything, is it?
Not negative attitude. I'm not saying we're not going to win.
Going in with a negative attitude.
No, I'm not saying we're not going to win. I'm just saying we're going to come out the block slow. And we're going to have to produce a Villa result rather than coming out the blocks fast and getting a result that way. I just feel that it's going to be that. We're going to take us a while to get in the game rather than coming out quickly. I just don't feel that we're going to come out the blocks quickly. That's my only difference to what you're saying. So just going on to, obviously we saw Everton drop points on Friday to Spurs, and we saw West Ham get beat badly by they lost to West Ham play again.
Don't know. Honestly, this season I
Newcastle. That's it. They lost to Newcastle. So that's it. They lost to Newcastle 3-2. So how crucial is it for Liverpool in terms of our top 4 race that we have to beat Leeds on Monday?
Obviously, every game, regardless of who we're going up against, whether it's Leeds, United, City, whether we're going up against, Sheffield United, who've just been relegated, it doesn't matter who we're going up against. We need to take the points from them. We can't be sitting there and taking a draw or taking a loss here, there, and ever. We can't afford to do that. We're not in the position we were last year, when we basically wrapped the league up by Christmas. And when Project Restart, when the football came back, we were all sat there going, oh, well, Liverpool aren't playing very well. Oh, they're still drunk from the celebrations. We haven't got the luxury of doing that this year. We kind of need to take every single point we can, and regardless of what team we're going up against. So, yeah, Leeds is definitely a game that we need to go in and get those points from. It is vitally important to our top 4. We've got 6 games to go. Every game matters.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. It is like a cup final for all the 7 games now that remain. It's a cup final. But except for I think United game, we could afford a draw in that one. All the other ones, I think we have to win. But just going with you, Paul, because I just wanted to bring you in before I ask Sophie this next question. Leeds have had a very good results. They won against at the Etihad, which many teams don't do there. You got a good 0-0 draw against Chelsea, clean sheet against them, which some teams haven't been able to do that. And you beat Leicester early on. What's been your secret, in these big games, for getting results and coming away with wins or even good results? So, how are Leeds going about being so effective against the big teams?
I think it's about approaching every game in the same kind of way. It's about being fearless. It's the games when it hasn't worked has been when there's been a slight tactical mismatch in terms of who the man marking was up against, which has allowed space where we didn't expect it to be and been slow to readjust. So there's always an element of luck in any of these games, but like, I don't know if you agree with this or you've seen it in your games, and I'd certainly say it for Sheffield United fans to tell you, but more so than ever, it feels like a lot of these games are based on the fine margins or the tiny little moments in matches that really can swing things, and it's about trying to be as consistent as possible to make sure that those are going in your way. Like, so many Man City fans couldn't believe it. They're like, we've had 40 odd shots and they've had 2 and scored. Yeah, well, that was us for 2 years in the Championship. You know, we lost against Wigan twice in similar games, exactly the same circumstances to that, and it's frustrating. But yeah, I think it's about them believing themselves, not feeling that they're out of place. We never play to draw. We've never played to draw under Marcelo Bielsa. Every game is you play to win. Which means you've always got a chance, because if you're aiming for a draw and you're hanging on or clutching onto something, then like, you see those points slip away so easily. So it's about having high expectations, not being afraid of what the opposition lineup is or how much they've cost, or not looking for autographs at halftime, etc. And so yeah, just going toe to toe with teams.
Just going for you then, Sophie, because I'm just looking at Leeds, their home and away form. So I mean, it's not been that a massive difference in terms of, like, obviously Leeds have won 6 out of 15 at home compared to they've won 8 out of 16 away. So it seems that Leeds are very much the same kind of team home and away. They're very effective home and away. So what is your key in terms of Liverpool going to this game, getting a result at Ellen Road? You know, even like historically, Ellen Road's been a tough place for us historically to go and get results there. You know, we've had some amazing matches with Leeds home and away, especially Ellen Road. So what is, it's a very good stadium, Ellen Road. Obviously the fans aren't there. It's a massive difference how it would be if the fans were there. What's the key to us getting a result here?
I think the key to us getting a result there is the fact that our away form has been considerably better than our home form this year. You know, the last few seasons or so, it's always been Anfield's our fortress. We always get a result at Anfield. And our away form was quite poor. We always tended to draw, or, we just lose out last minute with a loss, or we just scrape something. But this year, our away form has been so much better. And I think going to a stadium like Ellen Road, where usually the fans make a massive impact, very similar to Anfield, and, again, very similar to places like Old Trafford, where the fans are very domineering over here. But like you said, we're home, rightfully, we've got a really good track record at Ellen Road. And I think Liverpool are going to try and capitalise on the fact that Paul, and that you don't have your fans there. The way other teams have capitalised upon, Anfield and taken points from us, because we don't have our fans there either. And I think it makes a massive difference. So I think it's a bit of a combination of, our away form of recent has been okay. The fact that, Ellen Road, we do have a good track record there, plus the fact that fans aren't in the stadium. I think it's probably one of the best times for us to go to Ellen Road, especially in your first season in the Premier League. Obviously, if your fans were allowed there, they'd be absolutely wired for this game. So I think it's a good advantage for us to be away from home for this game, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree there. I do feel that, one of Liverpool's main strengths this season has been our away form. It's actually helped us a lot in terms of taking the pressure off us, because Anfield hasn't been a great place for us this season. So I do think, obviously, Leeds not having fans there will help. But also I think Leeds' style of play, we know how that Leeds are going to play. They're going to be high pressure at football and try and press us and play counter-attacking football. So I think that's going to be much better for us to face than if we were playing, I don't know, a Fulham or a Brighton at home who are just going to put 10 men behind the ball. So, Bielsa is an attacking manager, so that's going to help. I'm just going to some of the comments here. Anthony says, Liverpool went from a team that everyone feared to a team that every team looks forward to playing against. I think your team has the easiest opponents compared to Spurs, Chelsea, Leicester. No excuses. John Moore, not going to obviously say the big start there. FSG in the so-called Euro Super League. We as fans must not now take a stand and try and take the club back. Vela Lemon says John Zagobi, one of the Bayern executives, basically said that they're going to join the Super League too. Interesting. Chris Welch's lineup's gone with Alisson, Trent, Kabak, Phillips, Robertson, Fabinho, Thiago Milner, Salah, Firmino, Jota. He's going for a 2-0 win. It's going to be difficult. Interesting. So moving on from that.
Actually, before we move on, quickly, I just want to go back to Anthony's comment there about Liverpool went from a team that everyone feared to a team that everyone looks forward to playing against. We appreciate everyone's opinion, and obviously you're entitled to your own. But I think you'd be very hard-pressed to find a manager out there who doesn't fear playing Liverpool, even in our form. I think you'd be very difficult for you to go and find a manager that would have the absolute balls to come out and say, yeah, I'm well up for playing Liverpool now. I'm not frightened of them no more. Because we are not playing the football that we are known for recently, but we are still a team to be feared, and we've shown that yes, we're not quite the sharpest tool that we normally are, but we're not a piece of blue tack stuck at the bottom of the box either. We are still a team to be feared. We are still the same players. We've still got the same manager. Yes, this season is an anomaly in a very historic team. But to say that people look forward to playing against Liverpool, I think that's a little bit far-fetched. I don't think anybody enjoys playing against Liverpool when you've got, managers like Pep Guardiola turning around and saying that even in Liverpool's current form, he hates playing us. So if you've got the world's most decorated manager with 22 trophies in his cabinet turning around saying, I don't want to play Liverpool no matter what form they're in, I don't think a team is ever going to rest on the laurels and say, and just write Liverpool off. I think every team will still realise what Liverpool is capable of, and you'd be quite stupid to write us off, to be honest with you. There you go.
Paul, do you feel the same? Are you going to this game thinking like, I fear Liverpool, or are you thinking it's a great time to play Liverpool because of the form?
Well, Liverpool have won their last 3 Premier League games in a row, the same as Leeds have won the last 3 Premier League games in a row. I think what I'd say is probably a bit of a measured approach somewhere between that guy's comment and Sophie's comment is that what it probably means is that at some point during the last season, when everything was so almost invincible, that a lot of teams were beaten before they turned up. They were beaten in the car park on the coach. Whereas now there was a point this season where I wouldn't go as far as to say that you look for like. All top pros should look forward to testing themselves against the best, which is what Liverpool are. They're at the very top end of the best players in this league. So our team will go out there because they know they can test themselves against a top club. They won't fear them, but equally they will have the top level of respect because they know that it's the toughest kind of test that you can face, and that's as your job what you like to do.
Yeah, I think that's a really good, eloquent way of putting it, Paul. You've said yourself quite rightly there that not necessarily fearing them, but wanting to test your own player's ability. And every player should want to strive to beat the best. If you want to be the best, you've got to beat the best to get there. But again, even as a top team like Liverpool, I don't even think our lads never go into a game not fearing anybody. And I think, no disrespect to how I'm going to word this, but a team like Leeds, who are basically just been promoted, newly promoted team, technically on paper, when you look at a newly promoted team, they're not really something to fear. Historically, they're not looking at Norwich. They came up, they went right back down. Like everyone thought Norwich were going to do really well, and they didn't. Sheffield have gone down again, and they've been all right. So I think even as Liverpool players, as the top level of football, I think we still need to have that level of fear in regards to Leeds and, the lower ranking teams, because we've seen this season particularly a lot of lower ranking teams who play a low block against us get a couple of points against us too. So I think every professional has to have that level of, professional fear and anxiety in a game. But to say that you're not fearful of Liverpool, you're not worried about playing Liverpool is a little bit far-fetched, to be honest.
Just going to some of the comments here. Chris says, smash the like button. Sophie's about host to my homie. I don't know about that.
Definitely am. I'm more charismatic than you.
Carl says, Hack is one of the best club owners in club football. I'm not sure who owns that he's talking about there. Chris Welch says, teams this season have gone the right way against Liverpool. Brian, for example, stop 3-0 with the size of the club. I name Let's Do Our Talk on the pitch. Guess what they've got? They did the name of the game. Yeah, I do feel that teams have been more taking us to us this season, and especially with no fans there, and they've taken it to us, so they're not coming with fear. So I'm in between the both of you in terms of that, of whether teams fear Liverpool or not. But going with formation, Sophie, what formation lineup are you going with this game?
I'd like to start with a 4-2-3-1. Normal back four. Yeah, so normal back four. Fabinho, and I want to say Jones, but I'm going to put Milner in, and I'll explain that.
That's a hot take.
I'll explain why in a second. So I go Fabinho, Milner, Bobby in a 10, and then the front three. Now, the reason I've chosen Milner is because we need a captain. We need a voice on that pitch. We've seen it the last game when Milner came on, when Milner started, and everyone at first was like, why are you bringing Milner on? Why are you bringing? And we saw straight away why he brought Milner on, because without Henderson, we don't have a voice in that team. Milner is the vice captain for a reason, and I'm not saying he has to play for the entire game, but again, we saw the other day, as we said when the light went off, the minute Milner went off that game, the intensity dropped. And he's proven the last few games that he's still got what it takes to be a part of this Liverpool team. And he still is the voice of the captain. And he speaks what Klopp, he's the mouthpiece for Klopp on that pitch. And I feel like if we are really going to be fighting for top four right now, we need a captain. If we can't have Hendo, we need a captain, because Virgil's not there to be the captain. Genie, he's your next captain in line. He's too quiet. He doesn't say enough on the pitch, and Salah as well doesn't say enough, and Trent's not ready. We need a captain, and I feel like if we have a normal back four, Fabinho, who we know is able to be that extra line of defence in front of it, which will quiet and lead any counter-attack from Leeds, Fabinho will be the first line to stop that, but he can also break up the play and create play. We've seen him quite often this season, when he went back into the 6 role, moving the ball forward, quite quick, that counter-pressing. And I think alongside Milner, that would really work well. And then Trent has the ability to bomb it up the right, because he knows that Milner will track back and defend, which Milner has been doing recently on a pivot for Robertson. Then obviously with Bobby coming back into a 10 role, allows that link-up play with the front three, and hopefully be able to make those links and have some clinical finishing at the end. That's why I chose Milner.
Interesting. So I think for me, I'm going with the 4-2-3-1 as well. Yeah.
We agree.
The thing is, 4-2-3-1. I've had all forwards playing. I can see why you put Milner in there. I'm not bothered between Milner and Thiago, really, one of the two. But I'll probably go. I would. Yeah, I'm not bothered either one of the two.
See, I just feel like if you put Thiago into too defensive, we're going into this game. Leeds are an attacking team. We are also an attacking team, but we need to get those goals. And I feel like if we're going to sit back constantly and put on 4, 5, 6 defensive players and then 4 attackers, and Bobby's not the most attacking player, is he really? He's more of a, the link-up play between the two. I don't think that's the right way to line up. I think you need to have like a holding midfielder and in Milner, a captain, to really make those links between the team. Otherwise, Leeds are just going to walk through us.
All I'm saying for me is, I wouldn't roll either way. All I'm saying for me, and it's going to be a hot take, Gini should not be starting either way. And if we go 4-3-3, he needs to be on the bench, realistically for me, because I think he's done nothing the last couple of games, and he's only been picked for favouritism. So
if we were 4-3-3, who would you play in midfield then? Fab, Thiago, and Milner.
Oh, if Jones is fit, then I wouldn't have Gini, because I think I love Gini, but he's not done anything. He's only getting played because of favouritism. So, because he's fit, not because he's playing well. So, but it's even a call as well to me, like whether or not I'd start mine in this game, because I think you need his industrious work rate, because of how Leeds play high pressing football.
Yeah.
And I can see also the call for Milner, because Leeds are a high pressing team, which and it's going to be integral to have someone like Milner who can get tackled in. We'll be
not the right game for Thiago, really, is it? I feel like, especially with Millie coming from Leeds as well, he's very well aware of the mentality that's ingrained in Leeds, and I feel kind of like a little bit of a mind game type thing. I just kind of want to put Millie on and be like, nah, 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 type thing. This is one of your legends. I don't think this is the right game for Thiago. I feel like it's too high intensity, and so far he came out. It was published today. He came out in an interview and spoke about how when he came to Liverpool, he signed for us. He was in the best form of his life. He was at the top of his fitness game. Then he got COVID. Then he recovered from COVID, and then he got that injury in the Everton derby. Then he's come back, and he's really struggled to get his fitness levels back up in a very difficult season. And I feel like he's just not quite there yet. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. We're not going to see the best of Thiago until next year. And for me, Thiago, we know that he gets a lot of yellows. We know he goes to ground and he makes these slide tackles. And Milner will get away with them because Milner is seasoned. He knows how to do it in a Premier League way. Oh, I've just seen Paul's face go then. He knows how to do it in a Premier League type fashion. I don't think this is the game for Thiago personally. Definitely, if we go 4-2-3-1, it's not Thiago for me. It's a Milner and Fabinho midfield.
So this is So this is open for both of you. What do you feel both of you the key battles of this game that's going to decide the game?
Don't concede.
But like in terms of lineups, in terms of key players, like who do you feel like is going to be like the key matchups in terms of where this game is going to be won and lost?
It'd be interesting if Rafinha is fit, then he'll very much be in the shop window in this game because he's someone who's been spoken about and linked to the the elite level Super League clubs, so to speak. But if not, then it's another chance for those who are slightly lower profile. Stuart Dallas, I forgot to mention Stuart Dallas before. Stuart Dallas is an absolute machine, and you might see that he ends up playing 2 or 3 positions. Stuart Dallas ends up being my default man of the match if we haven't done well, because you know that you're getting a 7 to 8 out of 10 every game. Grafting. It's hard to say. The Milner thing just intrigues me. It's just fun because we've followed James Milner's career since he left Leeds, but he loves a hard tackle, and you're right. He knows how to stay the right side of the line. He knows the right point in the game where he'll take his yellow, and then for the rest of it, he'll tread that fine line because he'll have a nice chat with the referee and everything. But I'd play Milner just for that wild card factor.
Yeah, I think you've got to play Milner this game. Like I said, the captaincy, he's aware of Leeds. Like you've just rightly said, he knows how to say the right side of the line. He knows how to play the game, and he plays it very well. I just can't see Milner not starting for me personally, and I think if he doesn't start Milner, I'll be really surprised.
I imagine he'll be captain.
Yeah, because he's vice captain, so when Hendo's out, it should automatically default to Milner. Yeah. And up until last season, if Hendo wasn't on, Milner was always the first name on that sheet. It's only because we've seen a drop in form. And I think that's just contributed to Milner's age, to be honest. I know he's still very fit, but we have seen, which is bound to happen. He's 35 now. It's undeniable that he's going to have a little bit of drop in form. He's not going to be as pacey and keep up with everything the way it is, but he's a workhorse. And
he won't let them sulk from the other night. He's a top professional. He will demand that high standard that you're demanding of them and that the manager's demanding of them, and he will drag them all forwards. He's an absolute warrior.
You've seen it with Curtis Jones, hasn't it? Like he said, Milner is the one player, if you had to pinpoint one of them in the dressing room who is key to their development as a player at Liverpool Football Club, he's like the dad of the group. And he'll be like, no, pull your socks up, get on with it, stop sulking, do this, do that. You want to get better, you got to. He's quite hard on them, but in the best way possible. He's really motivational, and he's very vocal, and that's what a captain should be. And we've seen it with Henderson, and in an ideal world, Hendo would be playing without a shadow of a doubt. We've seen as Liverpool fans there was a lot of Henderson slander for quite a long time, saying, oh, he's just a pass back merchant and he doesn't do nothing and he's just, a fake Stevie G type thing. But we've seen how important Henderson is when he's not there and how vital Liverpool is to having a strong captain. If we don't have a strong captain on that pitch, no matter what quality of player we've got that day, it makes no difference. It makes absolutely no difference if we don't have a vocal captain on that pitch. And Leeds is never going to be an easy game. Never going to be an easy game. You need a captain. You have to have one there. And in an ideal world, it would be Henderson. He's quick. He can proper volley one out. Like an amazing player. His distribution's fantastic. But I feel like Milner would need to be it now. Just quickly on the chat, I've just seen it pop up. Everything about WWE is just said that make Robbo the captain when Milner's not there. I wouldn't do that. The reason why I wouldn't make Robbo the captain is Robbo is fantastic. Robbo is very, very loud and he's a very good team player. But he's the enforcer behind the other players. We saw it the other day when in the Madrid game when Casemiro sideswiped Milner. Robbo was right in his face and took a yellow for it. That, again, is not the type of person we need to be as a captain. It's okay as a team player. It's okay to sit there and defend your teammates and be that person. But as a captain, you've got to have that sense of level-headedness. You wouldn't see Milner or Henderson going into another player's face and screaming and kicking off at him and then arguing with the referee about it. When incidents between players happen, normally you see Milner or Henderson being the ones to separate it and say, no, calm down, let it go. Taking it back to the Barcelona game quite a while ago. Was it Suarez who said something? Or was it Messi who said something to one of the players? And it was Trent. And Henderson was walking right over there and breaking it up because that's what a captain does. They need to be very level-headed and professional about it. Robbo, for me, would just be a little bit too antagonistic.
But hasn't he been a really strong captain for Scotland and taken them to new levels?
Yeah, he has. And you can't deny that he's been a very good captain for Scotland, but it's very different being a captain for your national team and your club team. They're very different dynamics, which we understand. We've seen it. When you look at the players in the England squad, on paper are very, very good players, but for some reason in England don't really do much together. He is a very good captain for Scotland, but the way he plays in Liverpool is a different way to where he plays for Scotland, in my opinion. I think he plays a slightly different role for each team, which is undeniable. But I couldn't see Robbo being a Liverpool captain. It just doesn't work for me, not with the way our teams run and not with the ethos behind it. For me, in terms of captaincy, it would definitely still be Hendo, Milner, Virgil. And I don't know who we'd have after, but I can't say Robbo would ever be the first person that would spring to mind for me.
So it's a big one. We can talk about the captaincy all night of who would be captain because there's some people would say they want a captain that gets in your face like a Roy Keane, get in the player's face. Some people won't. But going back to the game, let's obviously put in our score predictions. So, what are predictions for this match? We'll start with you, Paul. What are you going for?
I'm going to say 1-1. I can't see either team not scoring. And I'm on your podcast, so I'm going to be polite and not.
Scott. There's no. Scott. If you think Leeds will win 3-0, say 3-0.
I think it'll be an entertaining 1-1 draw. Okay. And I'd be very happy with that right now.
Sophie?
I don't make score, but you know this. I don't do them. They backfire. I've got a terrible track record with them. I just won't do them. I do think we're going to win at the end. I think it's going to be quite a scrappy game. It's going to be very, very end-to-end, but I'm not putting a number on it.
Well, Chris Welch thinks it's going to be 2-0. I'm going to go for 2-1. Another 2-1 win for Liverpool. That's going to be end-to-end, and then we'll nick one.
We've won the last 3 games 2-1 in a row for the first time that we've won 3 games in a row 2-1 in our history. So 2-1 it could be.
That's what I'm going to go for. I don't think it's going to be high scoring like last time, but I think it'll be 2-1. Okay. And just because it's come up and people have asked loads of questions about this, we're not going to talk long about this because obviously I know it's a bit late now. What are people's opinions of the Super League? Because I think I'm anti Super League because it goes against everything that Liverpool stand for, goes anything that Man United stand for. And I think it's pure greed, this whole Super League team, and it's going to ruin football. And it's also going to make it difficult for lower league clubs or clubs to aspire because right now you're never going to get Leicester winning a league title or getting the Champions League, or potentially West Ham getting the Champions League. Now you're never going to get that, and it doesn't make sense to me. You're going to have a select group of teams that are guaranteed to be in there, like Arsenal, who are 12th now. Why should they be in the Champions League, this Super League, or Spurs, who are 9th? Leicester and West Ham have a better season than them. Arsenal have won the title in like over 15 years now, so I don't understand why they're there. So I think I'm totally against it, and I hope it doesn't happen. But what's your opinion on it first for you, Paul? Like, are you Super League in, or do you think it's going to ruin football?
Well, I wouldn't be in, would I? Because it'd be an entirely other sport that we wouldn't get to participate in, essentially.
It's going to affect you still because it's going to devalue the Premiership.
It would. I just don't see how it can work. I can't see that it can. But if you take it purely from a fan's point of view, if I was a fan of a club who were joining this, I can't see a benefit that I would get to this because we're going to get expelled from your domestic league. The players aren't going to be allowed to represent the national teams. So the only games that my team's going to play are going to be against teams that you would expect them to be playing against on an annual basis anyway in the Champions League. So as a football, someone who attends games, what do I get out of this? Literally nothing. It's a greed thing for owners. That's it.
And for you, so because FSG have got coming for a lot of stick from a lot of Liverpool fans saying FSG out, that people just saying FSG greedy. Henry's just thinking about his new yacht, and also I heard someone else say that any team that enters this, they're going to get like I think 350 million guaranteed. Like, where do you feel quickly on this Super League thing?
I feel personally, footballing accolades are earned on merit. So if you go to the Champions League, it's because you've earned the right to go to the Champions League. If you go to Europa League, you've earned the right to go to Europa League. You get to the FA Cup finals, you've earned the right to be at those finals. I don't think it's fair that just because your team has got a little bit of money and a bit of back in the end, that you can just create a whole new Super League that you're guaranteed to be in. Personally, I think it's very petulant. I think it's very, very childish to basically sit there and say, well, I can't always be in the Champions League, so I'm going to make myself a brand new league that I know I'm always going to be in. It's like spoiled brat syndrome, isn't it? I feel like the managers of the owners of these clubs are kind of looking at the money and going, well, they're seeing the pennies at the end of the day. They're seeing this extra money. But for me, as a fan, I don't want to see a Super League where I'm going to be playing Real Madrid and Barcelona and I'm going to play in Juventus, week in, week out. Because I want to go against them in the Champions League where they've earned the right to be there. And if they don't earn the right to be there, they're not going to be there. And I'll go against a team who deserves it. I want to beat the best. I don't want to just be forced into the popular group and play a bit of football there. But I don't see the benefits, especially when, like Paul's just rightly said, we're going to be expelled from the Premier League. UEFA came out and said that you'll also possibly be expelled from the Champions League as well. So what's the point? If the highest accolades in world football are to get your league, your domestic league, and the Champions League, if they're the greatest honours you can get, why are you disrespecting them by creating a tin pot club? That's what it is, and I don't like it. And I don't think it will happen. I think a lot of clubs will back down if UEFA stand their ground and say, no, you will be fined, you will be excluded from your league, you will be disqualified from Champions League. Even if you only stay in the Super League for 1 year, you are not allowed in the Champions League for X amount of years. I think they'll back down quite quickly.
And also, just add as well, like FIFA saying they also won't be allowed to represent their national teams, so they're banned from World Cups and Euros. So it's going to be interesting.
That part I'm not bothered about.
But equally, right? If you're going to play in this league and it's based in Madrid, Milan, and then London, and then Liverpool, and you can only play in those teams. Who's going to want to play in Liverpool and Manchester when you could live in the south, like in the Mediterranean, etc. as well, in terms of quality of life? If you don't have those other things going on around it, if the money's the same, it would devalue your club.
Yeah, but I never even thought of that. That thought never even entered my mind. But yeah, you're perfectly right. It would. Why would you want to go to the northwest of England and sit somewhere that is rainy and cold and get a little bit of sun, or would you rather go and live in the south of France?
Yeah.
Yeah, it would. And then FSG would go back, yeah.
Hopefully it doesn't happen.
They'll come crawling back eventually. They'll come crawling back and asking for the, and so it threatens I think it threatens the very existence of these clubs if it does happen, because some wouldn't be able to go back. They'd have to start at the bottom again. So let's see.
You'd lose a lot of respect, I reckon.
Yeah.
I reckon the team would lose a lot of respect for doing that, especially from teams like yourself, Paul, who you've just said, like, your team won't even benefit from it. It's not going to do you any favours at all. All it's going to do is you're going to look at those clubs in that Super League and you're just going to have no respect for them anymore.
I think the franchise model's worked in. Sorry, the lights go off at quarter.
Having a sofa the other day.
Oh dear. I heard you say that earlier as well. I didn't think about it. Yeah, the franchise model works in America in a certain way on the scale of it, because I don't know, it's about the history of the sports and it works in rugby league because the sport can't sustain as many clubs as it does, but there's the interest in the level that in football that it's like that. So it just, I don't think it'll happen. I think they'll get told to go away.
Perfect. Yeah. So just to wrap up, there's going to be a few trivia questions to end on a funny note. So if anyone has any good trivia questions you have to ask us, just put them in the chat and we'll read them out. So my first one for you guys is, what personality trait has gotten you in the most trouble? We'll start with you, Sophie.
You can guess, can't you? Me opinionated nature. I will say what I think, when I think it, how I think it. And my best friend describes me as somebody who will not sugarcoat anything, but will say it from a place of love, but it will come off like I hate it. Like, I don't hold back, and it gets me in a lot of trouble because I don't think before I say things. Like, you ask me my opinion on something, and I'm just going to give it to you, whether it's right, whether you like it or not. And then people look at me like, you're a bit harsh there, so and I'm like, oh, sorry. But it's got me into quite a bit of trouble in my mouth, quite a lot.
Paul?
I think this is going to sound stoppy maybe, but kindness. I try to be like, do nice things. No, it's no, but if you're kind to the wrong people and you can't say no and you do the things like that, then you can find yourself in ridiculous situations that, looking back, you may have avoided.
Chris Welch says here, my no-nonsense attitude. I still keep it regardless if people don't like it. Couldn't care less. I think for me,
done really well.
I think for me, it's I like to get the last word in, and that's probably doesn't help all the time. So that can be quite annoying because I like to always get the last word in. Okay, final one. Which movie do you feel that they should have made a sequel for? Start with you, Paul.
I know. I mean, you gave me sight of these questions before, and I still couldn't think of anything.
I know, I did the same.
Movie that I think there could be a sequel.
But you watched and thought, damn, there should have been a sequel for this.
Then most of this is really boring, but most of the movies that they can squeeze a sequel out of, they do, don't they?
Mm.
Yeah. To be fair, Inception, Charlie Chambers, that came in my head as well. But something recently was a kind of sequel. It was in the same realm as Inception, but Inception was a great film that was left as a singular piece. I know what it was. That one that's in the same thing as Inception was that big one that came out last year that didn't get properly released, where they were going backwards whilst moving forwards at the same time. Yes, that's it. So it's not a sequel, but thanks, Charlie. I'll say Inception.
So who about you?
I feel like you ask me loads of questions about films all the time, knowing that I don't really watch films. I don't know. I'm not a film watcher. I literally, same as Paul, you gave me this earlier, and I looked at the questions and I went, I'll think about that, and then I couldn't think of any because every film I thought I went, oh no, that's got a sequel. Oh no, that's got a sequel. So I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. What about you?
For me, Shut Island. Did I already watch that? I thought Shut Island could have been one. Should have had a sequel to, because you don't know at the end whether he's actually crazy or he's not crazy. So everyone has seen that. Should have thought that. Planet Chambers also has Tenant. I don't think I've seen that one.
No, that was referring to what I said. So that is kind of in the same world as Inception, of sorts.
Okay.
All right.
Well, anyone? Okay.
Shut up. If you could watch one, The Wire.
Paul?
I didn't know if she was saying just repeating what you said or whether she was agreeing with you.
No, I'm saying if you could watch one season that you've seen before from start to finish, forgetting that you'd ever watched it, which one would it be?
It's a great question. He said that really fast.
Sorry.
He said the Wire instantly. Let me see.
Let's think.
There's loads of great series, aren't there?
Yeah. See, I've asked that and I can't. I had one in my head and then I went, oh, what about that one? What about that one? All right. Well, I'd go for Game of Thrones personally. I'd like to watch Game of Thrones right from the very beginning, right through to the end without knowing anything that happened. I'd like to do that again.
I'd quite happily watch Line of Duty again, which is what I was meant to be doing if I hadn't got the call up for this. So it's going to be a late night to finish on that one.
Don't you dare put that on the screen. I will kill you, Bahomie. Don't you dare put that on the screen.
I'm not even. I'm just avoiding the comments.
Oh, stop it!
So going with the chat before we wrap up. Obviously, hi Dave. Good to always see you, mate. Druva, good night. You're never not alone. Jota and Salah scoring tomorrow. Good night, Druva. Dave Chats also says here, European Super League would happen. Really embarrassing, really. Totally agree with you. Good to see the near post podcast. Big up, guys. Good to see you guys. And then obviously, Dave says happy 40th birthday, Sophie.
I am not 40. Shut up.
She's 50, really. So, so happy 50th birthday.
Half 50 and I was one.
So
it's not even 30 yet. It's not till Tuesday, but shut up.
But yeah, on that note, it's good to see everyone. It's been a pleasure having you on tonight, Paul. Really good insight in terms of Leeds. Hopefully, if obviously Leeds stay up, then we'll also get you back on again next year. Well, you actually are staying up, so we'll hopefully get you on again next year to have some more chats. And also, good luck for the rest of your season. And obviously, Lil Youngster Cop, we're back tomorrow, so we're going to have our match lineup reaction. We're gonna do our next watch along for the Leeds game, and then we're gonna have the Leeds match post-match reaction straight away after the game. So packed Monday for you tomorrow, so definitely check those out. And also, if you haven't already done so, make sure you subscribe, hit that like button, go give Paul a follow, and also, follow Sophie as well. Give me a follow. Follow Gangs to the Cop on Twitter as well. And we will see you all tomorrow. So up the Reds, and it's been a pleasure.